I hear you.
How you doing?
I'm great, bro. I'm great. I'm
What
chilling.
What are you
Just
drinking
trying to
on
get
right now?
everything kind of. This Syrah out of Washington State.
I gotta hook you up with some of the winemakers I've been messing with. Right now, I'm doing a crisp soft blanc by Fatia. So I'll have to introduce you
Okay.
to. Yeah, I've got a little bit of an echo. Cheers, bro.
Cheers, brother.
So, talk to me. What have you been going? What have you been going?
Lately, man, uh, it's been I've been juggling a lot of things. Mostly I've been doing writing. I've been writing a lot, trying to get my I'm trying to publish a novel by the middle of next year. And so right now it's going through editing or whatnot. I'm working on the second edition of this of my fruit and glass book. The one that I wrote about wine and so I need to put some more information out about wine. It's going to be more situational type of wine book. And then on top of that, I am just focusing on my clothing line, my wine clothing line, and stuff like that. So I'm juggling a lot of stuff right now.
We're gonna have. That's the key of the game. There's no way we can come back 2021, with an extension of 2020. Let's rewind a little bit. How did you develop your passion for wine?
So let me keep it a buck. When I was in college, so originally I never drank anything. I didn't drink in high school like the rest of my homeboys. I didn't touch anything. Then I get in college and there's all these girls running around and everybody's like drinking like going to keg parties, drinking a lot of beer, drinking a lot of hard stuff. And I wanted to try it out one year. It was like right when I was it was the month before I turned 21. My birthday's in January, it's next month. And so New Year's Eve, I told my homeboys, I was like, look, this is the first time I'm gonna let y'all get me drinking. So y'all can give me whatever y'all want, and I'll drink whatever, right? So I go through all this alcohol. I drink double anybody else, and everybody else is drunk. And I realized that in that moment that I had a really high tolerance because I was fine the whole time. And so I realized I had a whole really high tolerance. But on top of that, I was like, my father's a preacher. I can't just be running around drinking a lot. So how am I going to figure out? I want to still sip on something, but I'm not going to drink to get drunk.
Yeah.
And I was like, what's going to separate me from being like the rest of these guys who are going to these cake parties with the women? What's going to separate me? Let me try some wine. So it started with me just sipping wine just to kind of impress women, and then I started learning more about it, and it became like a slippery slope, bro. I fell into it, and I've been in love with wine ever since, man. It grew from just like a little seed of just going to Trader Joe's and finding like little bottles from all over the world to, me writing books about wine and me being
so
sommelier.
you went from passion to then said, I want to write a book. Where did writing a book come into play?
That's a great question. I've always been a writer. I've been writing since like I can remember, and I had written already 3 manuscripts, 3 novels prior to writing this book. So I've always just written for me. I never wrote to try to like sell this. The idea of me publishing a book in the middle of next year is crazy because I would have never done it. I just wrote books for me, and now just like I want to move forward with a book. But anyway, going back to your question, um, I've always been a writer, and my 2 passions have been writing and wine for like over the last 15 years. So I decided finally let me combine those things. Also, another thing that was driving me crazy, working in the industry, you see a lot of people. How do I say this? You see a lot of people coming in with these big cellars, big wine cellars, and they bring in groups. And sometimes, not all of them, but some of them are a little pretentious. I think they know everything about wine. I hear them telling people wrong information on the table. And when someone asks them a question, they're very condescending. So I saw that one too many times at my restaurant, and I got annoyed. And I was like, you know what? Let me just write a book so that this is the barrier of entry into wine is a lot lower for people. They don't have to be mystified by all this like crazy talk or why we do certain things, why we put our nose in a glass. I can explain it in a way where it's easier for them to digest. And so that's why I wrote the book. That was the main reason.
Yeah, my pet peeve, or what I call a good educator, is someone takes pride how much they can teach versus how much they know. That's number one.
It's
Number
true.
two, what you're making with the books and what you're creating is making wine and Napa Valley more accessible to folks, less pretentious, you know. And that's the whole point of Comicaso and this podcast is to highlight folks that look like the people that we want to enjoy the passions we have.
That's
And,
real.
and it's important when they look like us. It makes it a little easier. So the first book you wrote, this was a success. What did you get from it that you didn't expect?
So it's actually it's done well. The one cool thing about the book is it become more of like a business card for me. When people realize that that you've written a book about wine or anything, um, your author is short for authority. So you become kind of an authority on that subject that you've written about. So people look at you as that. But the thing is, in the wine world, no one knows everything about wine. It's not like that with wine. Wine is one of those things. I don't care if they're a master som. Matter of fact, a master som told me this. He said, if someone tells you they know everything about wine, they don't know. They know nothing because it's always evolving. It's never in the same place it originally was. So you can't sit there and act like you know everything. But the things I do know, that I decided to share it in a book. And I just wanted to kind of give them a little bit more of a basic to intermediate level knowledge of wine, and that's why I wrote the book.
That's the biggest opportunity because if you look at the 500 maybe tasting rooms, we don't even know for COVID, and you look at close to 2,000 registered wineries in Napa, what percentage do you think are black or brown owned tasting rooms?
Oh, oh, that's easy. Like 0.0000001. Like I know one in Napa that is Brown Estates in downtown Napa, and that's pretty much the only one I know of that's black owned.
And then
Um, there is a nice Latin community of wine people in Napa, like a huge, actually, Latin community of winemakers and winos like me out there, you know. But our minorities in wine owning tasting rooms, not a lot, not in Napa.
and I see that as opportunity. I'm so excited
Oh yeah,
for what I'm doing with Comidaso, with the makers. You're a part of it because it's not. It's about the culture. We're from the Bay, and I consider
sir.
that a culture.
Hell yeah.
So I'm excited for some collaboration with you, for the business, for the culture, and our passions. So where do you see? Where would you like to be in 3 years with everything you're doing? The apparel coming out, you've got more books. What about a wine? Tell me what you would like to. What's the 3 year goal?
So my 3 year goal right now is I want to get my publishing company off the ground a little bit more. I want to, of course, write more books. I want to invite chefs and other people who are writing books to, get published under Grapes and Sand, which is my publishing company. I'm not there yet. I'm not even close to publishing anybody else other than me right at the moment. But that is one of my goals. Another one is I kind of just want to have. I want to kind of start like a ground movement of people who are enjoy wine and food. I want it just to be like a collective where all of us kind of build up together from the ground up, and people who are just. I want to be able to give this book out to people who are interested in wine, but maybe a little intimidated, and that will start their journey to being part of my collective. That's pretty much my goal. The apparel stuff, I love fashion and I love art, and I'm gonna continue with that. But that probably is kind of second tier to those two prime priority things that I'm thinking I want to get done in
Got
the
it.
next few years.
Let's have some fun questions. What are your pet peeves in the business?
Pet peeves in the business. Biggest thing is people who don't who expect a lot and don't tip. That drives me crazy. Um, because you're, especially if you're in the wine game, you have to open the, especially if it's like an older bottle, you have to open the bottle table side. It's a lot of work. It's embarrassing if you break the cork. You're sweating and nerves are kicking in. And if it's an older wine, a lot of times you have to use an osso, which is even more finicky to try to open a bottle by table side. So uh, what drives me crazy is people see you doing all this work, trying to make sure they're having a great experience, and then they don't tip well. So that's probably one of the heavy pet peeves. Another one is I don't like people. Huh? I'm sorry.
No, I said that's number one in the business. Go ahead.
No, I said that's number one in the business. Go ahead.
The condescending conversations. When people like, wine should be attainable for everybody. It should be, if somebody asks you a question and they're genuinely asking a question, and they just want to know more information. I don't like the idea of talking down to them, like, why don't you know this, or how can, like, or getting short with them. Like, wine is supposed to be educational. It's fun, it's classy, it's beautiful, but it's supposed to be education. So why not educate somebody so they can get on your level, you know? So that's another pet peeve of mine. And then lastly, probably would be I love the community of wine. I love like people in the wine community. Um, I don't like when people always who are not in the community go to a wine bar or a restaurant and at least don't try to delve outside of their little bubble of wine. Like everybody drinks Cabernet Sauvignon, everybody drinks Pinot Noir. Sometimes there's other things that are comparable that could maybe save you money, but also have as much quality as those two varietals. Don't get me wrong, I love those two varietals. I'm just saying sometimes I want people to kind of venture outside of their bubble of wine.
Be open-minded is what you want, right?
Be open-minded is what you want, right?
Exactly.
Pet peeves in society.
Pet peeves in society.
That condescending thing is kind of across the board for me. I don't like bullies. I don't like people who talk down to people. It drives me crazy. Um, I don't like narrow-mindedness.
Yeah.
I like we were just saying, being open, more open-minded. I don't like when people are so this is my zone, and anybody who thinks outside of my zone, I don't want to hear from them. I don't like that. I want people, at least, I can't tell you what to do basically, but my wish is that people would venture outside of their own narrow views of things, or how they were raised, or how society raised them, or their family raised them. I want them to see something outside of that and don't be so dismissive, basically. Now, if you don't like it once you've like dealt with it, or you've encountered it, then that's one thing. But if you've never even gave it a chance, that drives me crazy too.
Let's talk about tasting rooms. From a winemaker perspective. Wine tasting rooms if you're a startup winemaker.
So you mean like if you are a startup winemaker, should they be opening their own tasting rooms?
No, should they try to get into tasting rooms where you and I can? So should they? You think you kind of broke up a little bit. So should they be trying to get into tasting rooms? Like where you and I connected.
Oh yeah. Like the world of wine is big. You should be trying to do everything you can if you're a brand new winemaker to understand more about wine and to push your product if you are if you know what you're talking about, if you are making wine at that point. I mean, your experience will show when you talk about the wine. So, but I still recommend you going out there and putting yourself out there, and if you're a brand new winemaker, to try to explain to people what you're trying to do, and then learning from people who know a little bit more than you. Yeah, definitely.
You wrote a book. To get your passions out. What can a winemaker do?
What can I'm sorry, you're breaking up again. You said, what can a winemaker?
I'm cutting out. What can a winemaker do to get their word out?
So I really, of course, use social media. And being really honest with you, I was not into social media prior to the book. I had an account, but I rarely ever looked at it. But then I was like, okay, I'm gonna be releasing this book. I got to figure out a way to market this because I don't have the money to like actually put behind the marketing machine. what am I gonna do? So what I did was I basically just said, you know what, I'm gonna just jump into social media. The hard part for me is I don't like, I'm not a huge person of being in front of the camera, even though I do all these videos, like Wine Wednesday and my Wine Still of the Week. I do weekly, where I'm like talking about, I'm doing reviews of bottles of wine. I'm comfortable now, but it took me a long time to get here in front of a camera. Because I'm more of a behind the scenes type of guy. I like to write. That's the reason why I like to write. Like I can write and put it out. It's more solitary. I don't have to have people there distracting me. That's more my personality. I had to learn how to adjust to, you know, doing it on the internet. So I recommend doing the internet. I recommend Instagram is a great way to do it. One that's slept on right now is LinkedIn. I know a lot of people think that it's all business, and it is business. But if you have a passion for something and you're doing videos and you're posting it to Instagram, you should share that same video over to LinkedIn, because what you don't realize is that a lot of people in business have passions for other things. So for example, with me with wine, I started sharing my videos from Instagram to LinkedIn, and I had all these direct messages from people, random people I've never met before, saying, I love wine. I love what you're doing. Keep on going. Or also offer me collaboration opportunities. You know, I mean, I've done quite a bit of collaboration since I started posting on LinkedIn, whether it's virtual tastings, whether it's just reviewing their wines or whatever. I've just gotten a lot of business from LinkedIn. So I recommend definitely looking at LinkedIn. And of course, Facebook is always the one from back.
That's interesting. I just learned from you on that. I'm gonna start doing that.
Just learn from you on that. I'm gonna start doing that.
Yeah, LinkedIn is great, man.
So I like your 3-year plan.
So I like your 3-year
Next
plan.
question is, if there was a person dead or alive, who would you like to have dinner with?
Who would you like to have dinner with?
Oof. Yo, that's a good. Ooh, you got some good ones, bro. You caught me off guard with that one. Dead or alive that I would love to have dinner with. Dang, that's hard. Let's say if I could have dinner with, because he wouldn't be fun. It'd be more intellectual. I was thinking about like Martin Luther King. He'd be fun, but like who knows what he's drinking. He was a preacher like my father, and I don't know if he drank like my father doesn't drink at all. So I'm gonna go ahead and say, I like Anthony Bourdain, man. I think if I was just sit down with somebody, dead or alive, it'd probably be Anthony Bourdain. That hit me when he passed away, man. Like, I didn't expect it to hit me, but I was a big follower of what he was doing, and he just seemed like a very interesting cat. Like sitting there drinking wine, running around, eating great food. Yeah, that guy would probably be. He'd be at one of the top at the list, or we'd be one of the top people on my list, I think.
The world is ending. What is your last hit?
What is your last hit meal you would want?
I'm easy, man. It's either gonna be gumbo my mother made. My mother makes amazing gumbo, so it probably would either be gumbo or just a nice filet steak with some potatoes, and I think that'd be it. Like perfectly made, medium cooked, with like a nice bottle of wine. That would be it.
What would you pair the gumbo with?
Good question. So my thing is this: my mother makes it not overly spicy, but it's spicy enough to where if you drink something that has too much alcohol, it's going to burn going down. So for me, I want something that's like medium alcohol, which would probably be 13 or below. And I want something, well, okay, so there's two options. I would probably either go with a rosé, either out of Provence or Languedoc, southern France, or I would go with, I can see myself going with either a Sangiovese for red out of Italy, or a Tempranillo, but like a Tempranillo that's not overly oaked at all, like one that's smooth and has more of the fruit components to it. Those will be my three: Rosé, Tempranillo, or Sangiovese.
No, that's dope. Where did you graduate from high school?
Deer Valley and Antioch.
Shout out to Antioch, California. We're one of the few that can have these conversations that didn't end up in a much harder situation, right? We're blessed on that.
You're not lying, man. You're not lying, bro.
So listen, I love what you're doing. The apparel, the second book. I love your passion. I love your experiences on how the industry for people of color, there's big opportunity and upside to make it more accessible. I know that you and I will collab. We had some fun time, fun questions. Oh yeah, one last question. Did you vote this past election?
Did you vote this past election?
What was that?
Did you vote this past election?
Did you vote this past election?
Yes, I did.
I think it's important to talk about that we are not just
important to talk about that we are
contributing citizens to this country.
Contributing citizens to this country.
It's very important to exercise that privilege and right, correct?
Exercise that privilege and right, correct?
I agree, brother. Like, I think my circle, we all, like, I have a couple of my partners that was like, yo, I ain't whatever. By the end of us all talking, they all voted. So it was one of those things in my circle that we had some deep conversations about, because you know how it is with minorities, like with us, like we don't trust a lot. We don't trust the government. And like, at least on my side, we don't trust the government. And so because we don't, as a group, we don't trust the government. We tend to be, it doesn't matter if I vote. And that's not true. They want you to believe that it doesn't matter if you vote. It's like, that's groupthink. They want you to think like that so they can divide and conquer. No, vote and then see what happens after that. And it doesn't stop at voting. There's a lot more stuff you need to do after voting too. You need to hold their feet to the fire. So yes, I voted.
Being informed and voting locally is even more important than the national election. And that's the word I want to get out. See, we touch on business, we talk about just being woke. And that's why you and I are more. We want to redefine ourselves in 2021. We want to recalibrate. You know what I'm saying? So I appreciate you spending some time with me today, man, and enjoy that nice glass of wine. And I can't wait to connect with you over dinner and food and talk business and talk passion. Because that's when the magic happens, you know what I'm saying?
I agree, my brother. I agree. I love what you're doing, man, for real, man. You keep on doing it. Like, I'm going to continue to follow what you guys are doing over there, man, for real.